All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Hope everyone's staying safe and keeping clean hands. It is Thursday, March 19, 2020. We are so fortunate to have an incredible speaker with us today. Rachel Anderson, she's going to be talking to us about what it takes to drive entrepreneurship and business creation in small communities. So we're incredibly thankful for Rachel for joining us today. Couple of quick housekeeping notes before we get started. My name is Rashu Mahalaha. I am the economic advisor who's supporting the Growth in the Regional Ozarks, Rural Ozarks program, GROW, and have had an opportunity to work with a variety of our small rural communities in the Ozarks region. So we've been working on a program that helps cultivate community and economic development programs, and so we have a handful of communities here online that are part of that program. In order to support the business growth and business sustainability in these communities, we've been sort of slowly trying to figure out what are some things we can do. One of the tools that's been built, I want to share with you really quick, is called Business 911. And so if you have a few minutes, feel free to visit it. When you come on here, you can click on Grow Missouri, and there are a variety of tools that are available to you on this. There's a resource catalog if business leaders are looking for various types of support. If you're looking for internships, there's an opportunity to sort of plug in your needs there. The one thing we certainly want to highlight right now is this, the educational series that we are part of today. All these conversations get recorded and maintained as a catalog online. So if you ever want to visit any previous conversations, you can see we've had a few events take place in the last year and a half or so. We've got some great topics out there. And really what we've tried to do is set the conversation up in a way where the content is being relayed and communicated by individuals that are from the region, from the community, have sort of lived and walked in your shoes. So hopefully the content feels very real. So after today's conversation, we will be recording this session, and this recording will also be available on Business 911. If you want to revisit it or more importantly, if you want to share it with other friends, colleagues, please feel free to do that as well. And the last housekeeping note is, at the end of the conversation, if you wouldn't mind just literally it shouldn't take more than 2 minutes to give us a little bit of feedback on how the session went, or there's always things that we can do on our side to make our content better. So please feel free to go to this website, tinyurl.com/grow speaker. I actually didn't realize this QR technology. I'm a late adopter, and I literally had no idea how it worked. So apparently it's super easy. If you just take your phone and turn the camera on, and this should even work on this screen. So if you just take the screen, if you bring your camera up to the screen, your device is smart enough that it'll be able to read the QR code, and you'll get a pop-up message that says, do you want to visit the website? You hit the button, and it'll take you to a 4-question survey. If you can respond to those questions, that'd be great. We would sincerely appreciate your feedback. It really helps us improve the quality of our content. So with that, let me just introduce our speaker today. As we mentioned, Rachel Anderson, she is the director of EFactory. We were talking earlier today, and I was getting to know Rachel a little bit. It's amazing how much she's done in her career. She's a native of Springfield, Missouri, but lived on both coasts, LA, New York, worked and lived in those arenas. So just has a tremendous amount of experiences in entrepreneurship, technology, community development, and now as a director of EFactory, really helping cultivate some of those ideas for us in the region. And we're fortunate that we have EFactory here today, because obviously for many of our communities, you have access to their expertise, and so Rachel is going to be sharing some of those stories with us. In her experiences, Rachel has had an opportunity to work on startups that dealt with things like how colleges can better support alumni, help with fundraising. She's a marketing expert, so she just incredible array of experiences. And the one thing that she was sharing earlier, her motto, which is quite timely right now, is to be always prepared, always have a backup plan. So so I'm sure we're going to hear some really interesting stories. Feel free to, as Rachel is speaking, she's going to be asking if anyone has questions, so please do feel free to jump into the conversation. And so without further ado, Rachel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And you can take control of the screen.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me try to take over. I think you have to quit sharing yours and then I can take over.
Perfect. There you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you here today. And I know some of you have had a chance to come by the EFactory, and others of you, this may be the first time hearing about it. And so I can help be a resource, and please use me as a resource as much as possible as well. So like he said, so I am from Springfield originally, grew up here, moved to Columbia, Missouri, went to school at Mizzou, and then lived on both sides of the coast. I get bored pretty easily, as you could probably tell from my background and different things that I'm involved in, but moved back to Springfield about 6 years ago and really fell in love with the community again. I was working remote at the time, so luckily, I guess, in a situation, I do have some remote work experience. So if I can help you, and in that regard too, in addition to everything that we talk about, please reach out and I can share the tools and resources that we work with. Normally, you don't have a bed in my background, but just like many of you, I am working from home today, and so still really glad I get to be here. Please feel free to interrupt anytime we go over anything. A lot of what I might show you today may seem like it is, a lot further than where you are, or maybe something won't work in your community. I'm happy to give advice on ways that you can do anything in your community as well, because really we built all this from scratch. So this building that you see here on the other side of the silo, it was a former poultry processing plant. The whole area that we are now calling Aradia Commons had really been abandoned with the previous downturn. And so Missouri State University, we are a Missouri State University program, really took the lead to imagine what if we could create this public-private partnership in downtown Springfield, so just north of the square. Aradia Commons is actually an 88-acre district, so pretty much the government corridor. So if you know where City Hall is in Springfield, Chestnut Expressway down to the square, and really tried to revitalize it. And I think this is a really good example of how public dollars make a private partnership. So on our other side of the EFactory, you have the national headquarters for Andy's Frozen Custard, National Audio, which actually is the largest distributor of cassette tapes in the world, which is pretty interesting. And so both of those companies have just gone through multi-million-dollar expansions. I can't say for certain, but likely, this area wouldn't be what it is today without some public investment, public funds, with Missouri State really taking the lead. So this whole area, you have Brick City, which is Missouri State's art and design program. You have Jordan Valley Innovation Center, which is our high-tech research facility. A timely topic, two things that we're working on. So Cox Health was actually running out of PPE, so equipment to help keep their physicians and their staff safe right now with the coronavirus. And so they came to us because the shipment that they were going to be able to get is going to be much more delayed than what they need. And so as early as yesterday, we were working with them to develop a prototype and can help kind of fulfill those needs locally. So really excited, proud of that. Another example of a company that came out of the EFactory, which you all may have at your workplaces, is called Step and Pull. So if you have seen kind of the device that's at the bottom of bathroom doors, so you can open it using your foot instead of having to use the handle. Again, another kind of timely business, but I just really think that that shows how innovation works, how entrepreneurship is important. Those two co-founders actually work full-time, and then they are able to ramp up their manufacturing because they use a Springfield, Missouri manufacturer, and then brought on a Joplin, Missouri manufacturer online. So I think that's just a really good example of ways, you know, innovation and entrepreneurship can help no matter what is going on. So opened our doors in March of 2013. I was really hire number 2 at the EFactory, and so I helped build out all the programs that we're going to talk about today. So again, please let me know if I can help with anything. We have been fully occupied for over 2 years now and are actually going through an expansion on our 2nd and 3rd floors. We leveraged EDA funds to help you know, expand, build out our facility. So that's something that I think you all should think about as well if you haven't already. Happy to talk through what that looks like, what the application process looks like, and what reporting looks like, all of that, if I can be helpful as well too. So it was actually our 7th year birthday as of last week, so kind of postponing our celebration, and we'll revisit that here pretty soon. But started really with, you know, less than 5 client companies and this huge facility, and then now have been, like I said, fully occupied and under expansion in a matter of probably about 4 to 5 years. So like I said, part of Missouri State University, which we are really proud of and are really in tune to our education mission and how we can better serve, better educate small business owners, founders, all of that. Pretty unique model. So, you know, our vision was, how do we create a one-stop resource center where anyone that either has an idea or maybe has a business and is looking to grow or needs help with professional development, leadership training, come to the EFactory and we can help you out. So that was really kind of the big, bold vision. And then we've figured out what our programs look like, what our resources look like, what our services look like. I'll tell you, they're constantly expanding and changing. So, you know, as of this last week, we stopped doing some things, started doing some other things, and have to really pivot in real time. We also operate off budget from Missouri State University, so we operate just like a small business ourselves, and you know, do receive some grant funding that I can talk about as well today or after this presentation too. So already kind of talked through Aradia Commons. Here are some pictures just to give you an idea of what those facilities look like and how we were able to revitalize our area just north of the square in Springfield. Mentioned Andy's Frozen Custard and National Audio already. Marlyn Advertising is another really good example of a company that we developed a public-private partnership with. We actually lease space to them over at Brick City, top floor. They are a global marketing advertising agency, work with brands such as like Starbucks. And so it's a great partnership for the university, for us, because they also are hiring college students to work there for internships and then also after they graduate. And so we actually report up under research and economic development. And so our whole goal is, how do we give students a real world experience, make sure they have the best, you know, opportunity that they have here, but then also how do we, you know, keep them after they graduate? How do we create, you know, higher wage paying positions, high growth areas, and how do we better support our community? So when I talk about EFactory programs, these are all of the different programs that we offer. So I know Lance Kaufman is going to be your speaker next month. So he's on our team as part of the Small Business Development Center at Missouri State. I also know that a number of you are in our kind of coverage or service area for our SBDC, so happy to help however possible. And even if you're not in one of the counties that we serve, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, you know, feel free to reach out because we can still help you or put you in touch with the right contact in case you don't know them already. Through the Management Development Institute, we do professional development leadership training that we'll talk about in just a minute. Same with Rosie. We were in a position where, you know, EFactory and Rosie are brand new programs, or were brand new programs started from scratch. The Small Business Development Center and Management Development Institute have been around, you know, 30 plus years. They were previously housed at the College of Business with Missouri State University, and then moved under the EFactory whenever we opened our doors about 7 years ago. So I can talk through mergers, new programs, kind of all of that, if it's helpful. So we really measure the impact that we have for clients. And so this is primarily through our Small Business Development Center, EFactory programs, as well as JVIC programs in terms of clients that we've served over the past 7 years, capital equity that we've helped clients secure, as well as research grant support, and then jobs created. So we actually report all of these on a quarterly basis and report this back to the state and federal government as well. But really stay tuned to our mission of helping create more higher wage paying positions. And so we try to make it easy. So it's hard enough, like you guys know, to even start a new program. It's even harder to start a business if you have no idea what you're doing, because you often don't, and you don't know what questions to ask either. And so you just need somebody to help point you in the right direction and try to make fewer mistakes, right? So how do you grow, scale faster? And so that's really what we try to be. So we do have private office space. We currently have 31 private offices, getting ready to add 8 more with our expansion. We have a co-working model where an individual can come and just rent a desk, and so month to month. So price point wise, to give you an idea, it's $100 a month, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, $200 a month, 24/7. So we try to be competitive. We open our doors to the community for free on Fridays. You are more than welcome to ever come check out our facility. We do weekly tours. I would say right now we've really kind of stopped some in-person events, so please reach out to me in the meantime if you want to take a look, or we're happy to do anything virtual as well. And a lot of the things that we do, we didn't start doing all of these things at once. We actually contracted out with somebody else who did our co-working program. That's now been folded under to our staff that our operations. Same with the accelerator. We didn't start with an accelerator program, but we found that a lot of tech companies in Springfield were moving outside of our region because we didn't have an accelerator program that we could actually invest funding in, have them go through a rigorous process, help them raise additional capital. And so we started one, and to date, we're still, I think, the only accelerator program in Southwest Missouri. Our current model is investing $30,000 in exchange for 8% equity, but really looking at how to scale that into multiple industries, hopefully as soon as next year. So in the meantime, when we're kind of starting our accelerator, trying to get investment in startups, we really got into the corporate innovation space. So Cox Health came to us and said, how can we help startup companies? How do we, really change our innovation culture? And started putting together an annual event with them. For us, it was in the space we were working in because it was economic development. They've invested over $2 million in ideas that have come out of these events that we've done with them, processes that they've created, but also they became a client of some of our startup companies. So what we were facing, and still face candidly, although I think it's changing, day by day, is a lot of larger companies in Springfield actually had into their purchasing requirements that they couldn't work with a company, that was less than 3 years old or things like that. And so when you think about how do you get startups to be more successful, or how do you get entrepreneurs to be more successful, it's reducing a lot of those barriers. And so by partnering with these larger companies, they were able to see how we were helping these startup companies, small businesses, mitigate risk, and then changing their policies, which then in turn really helped entrepreneurship in our community. Do a lot of custom trainings, and then started a mentorship network. So a few years ago, what it looked like was, anyone that, so we have a small staff team, probably just like many of you, and are, knowledgeable in certain areas, less knowledgeable in others. And so we'll always want to give somebody good advice, because that's also the downfall of a lot of startup companies or small businesses is, well-intentioned people with bad advice. So how do we make sure they get good advice? So it used to be we just had a Rolodex of people. We asked to put their picture up on a website and said, can we give you a call if somebody has a question? And they said yes. So that's where we started. We've now turned that into a more developed program and launched that last quarter. And we'll continue to do that where clients can, or they don't even have to be a client. Anyone can sign up to meet with these different types of mentors. We try to pull people with different backgrounds from our standpoint, that really looks like reserving a conference room and doing some of the prep work ahead of time. So asking, you know, the startup company, what questions do you have? How can this be helpful? Arming the mentor with resources that they can provide. And then we don't require that they meet after that first meeting, because then we really take over the additional help and support. And so that's allowed us to have people that are more high profile or your real, you know, kind of sought after mentors in our community donate their time to be a part of that. And so I think that's something that's really, you know, pretty easy to get off the ground. You know, some of the initial prep work takes a little bit of time, but that's been really successful for us. And then now in turn, our mentors, you know, are working at those companies and then reach out to us to see if we have any startups that can help solve their problems. So it's been really beneficial. So like I said, we have currently 31 private offices, some smaller offices, some larger offices. We lease starting at $300 a month for a smaller office. They do sign a 1-year lease, and then they have a 30-day opt-out after that. We can modify their lease, you know, arrangement in case they all of a sudden, you know, start with one person and then have 5 people and need to move into a larger office. We try to be as flexible as possible, and again, just help mitigate the risk that come when starting a business. And then we are really focused on some of these higher growth areas because we are not trying to compete with private developers, but really helping to start startup companies that might not otherwise get started in Springfield, Missouri or Southwest Missouri. So again, make it easy. Try to have them only pay, you know, one rent check a month. That includes all of this, because if you're a really good developer or a really good programmer, you know, all of a sudden, now you have to also know a little bit about marketing, know a little bit about HR. Oh, and then you need a conference room to bring in a client to because your office isn't big enough. You know, so it's a lot of other things that come up that you might not initially think of as a startup company. And so we do all of that. So even if you need a stapler or you need to make some copies to go out and meet with a client, you can do all of that at the EFactory. So I already talked about co-working a little bit. Like I said, try to be as flexible as possible with monthly plans, day passes, free Fridays. Anyone in the community can come. We also let any of our partner providers, which is, you know, really a newer type program that we'll talk about in just a minute. They can use co-working at any time too. And so for a lot of people that are used to working in a more corporate environment, or even if it's just, you know, a few cubes and they, you know, need a change of scenery, they can always come to the EFactory as part of our partner program and use it free of charge as well. So I'm going to stop there before I get into the accelerator and just see if anyone has any questions for me about those things that we covered. Otherwise, we can keep going here too. And I'll stop sharing my screen so you can see me a little bit closer. But any questions that you have for me at this time?
Rachel, maybe I'll start, and I'm sure others, if they have questions, they'll jump in as well. 1 or 2 questions. First is, so in our communities, if they want to access help, whether it's expertise or some in-person support, what would that look like? Do you actually have to be physically in the EFactory to get help, or can our entrepreneurs call someone and access help?
Yes, that is a great question. So you don't. Let me share my screen again, and then I'll show you the slide that will have a little bit more information. And we can always come back to the accelerator here too. Sure. So we, like I mentioned earlier, when we looked at the logos or programs that were part of the EFactory, we are also home to the Small Business Development Center with Missouri State University. So we're the host institution. And this is, you know, nationwide program, statewide program, and then obviously a localized program. And so here's some examples of some of the services that we do offer. So business consulting, financial planning projections, can help somebody with business plans. You know, it's either things like what Lance is going to come present on next week. You know, that's an example of a training opportunity that we have for business professionals through SBDC and through the EFactory. So we really look at SBDC as our business training and support services arm. So one-on-one consultations, which it could just be, here's my business plan, or here's my idea, can you help me? So you don't even have to have a registered LLC or corporation before you come to us. Right now, as you can imagine, we're doing a lot of assistance with my whole business model just changed overnight, or I need some disaster relief recovery. Can you help us? And so our consultants are scheduling calls right now. You don't have to be a client, and those services extend to your areas as well. So I encourage you to use the resources that we already have or have set up if you don't have those, or you know, I always think it's easier to partner than it is for everyone to recreate everything. You know, work with us, send them our way. And then if you go to the our eFactory website, we have on our main scrolling bar a link to some of these resources right now. And you can click on those and share those within your network, and you know, happy to talk more offline about any of those things too. So all of this is available for you. I had talked about coverage area. So here's an example of the anything in blue is what is in our center's kind of domain or area. But like I said, if you happen to be, you know, just right outside of that blue area, still contact me and we can put you in touch with the right consultants or still help you, because we are here to help for sure. And then with something like the accelerator, this is a program that you apply for, selected to, again, $30,000 in exchange for 8% equity. But you don't have to be, you know, a startup or a small business to get services at the eFactory. So through the Management Development Institute, we also do, you know, certificate programs, leadership development. We do custom trainings, go out in the region, you know, travel pretty frequently with facilitators as well.
Very cool. So if we could just kind of stay on this theme for a second, I want to try to get in the heads of our rural small community entrepreneurs, whether it's a coffee store owner, daycare owner, or someone doing small manufacturing that they're selling to region or state. So the way you begin is they give you a call or someone on your team, and then the team can just help navigate them and say, okay, here's your needs. Let's see where are you at in that journey, and then guide them so that they know what the next step could look like and how eFactory could be a partner in that journey. Am I capturing that right?
Exactly. So you can either self-select into something, and we have, which I can show here too, you know, some things that are, you know, more entry point level. So something like a lunch and learn or a speaker series, you know, something that, you know, you don't, or even Rosie. So, you know, I'm a female and I want to meet some other females, come to a Rosie event. So you definitely can self-select into anything like this. Like a lot of people, you know, don't have maybe a resource that comes to a lunch and learn to hear about tax code changes and how it affects my business, which this is a good example of a really awesome format, you know, so you don't have to physically go to a space and you're bringing different topics and bringing different people together, because I really think that's where the magic happens. But you can just give us a call and say, here's my situation. What can you help with? Because even if it's not one of our programs, again, we wanted to be that one-stop shop. And so inside our business resource suite, we are also home to Minorities in Business, Association of IT Professionals, Missouri Enterprise, Missouri Department of Economic Development actually has an office in there too. And so we try to have a base camp for everybody there. So even if it's not, you know, Rachel Anderson, that's the best fit for you, chances are it's just somebody down the hall or somebody I can put you in touch with.
Beautiful. So on our call, and some of the folks that may watch this video will include either entrepreneurs themselves, or it'll be a group of individuals that serve business owners, entrepreneurs, individuals that are just trying to sort of go from one socioeconomic situation to the next, sort of elevate themselves. For example, I know Jack is on the call. He's a local banker. So for folks like Jack, he's obviously seen people, business owners, businesses that may be challenged. And in some ways, you know, Jack probably has a pretty good sense of when a business probably should be seeking help. So can you talk a little bit about how folks like Jack should be thinking about eFactory and some of the programming that you have available as well?
Yes, definitely. And so, quite a few different ways based off of, what your interest area is. So you maybe see somebody who comes to you if you're a banker and they're asking for a loan, but they don't quite have their business plan put together. A lot of times lenders, call us if they're from a lender referral. It's like, hey, I really am, think this is something, I'd like to make this loan, but they need a little bit more help before I can help them. We fast track that. And so our consultant, so somebody like Lance, is meeting with them, helping them get their business plan put together and sending them back to you. And those are resources that everybody's tax dollars are already paying for. So I encourage you to, take advantage of those resources. We're here to help. And then also some other ways that we do that. So like these speaker series that I mentioned about. So here's an example of some of our partners. So you can see, insurance agencies, you see law firms, you see banks on here. And so these are really who we call for advice, for support, for lunch and learns, for our speakers. And so I think that, if you're a resource provider, and it can look a lot of different ways. So you see Mother's Brewing Company up here or Neighbor's Mill, we reach out to them a lot. So Neighbor's Mill provides a discount for our lunches when we do them in person. And so everything really helps. You don't have to fit kind of that traditional resource category role.
Very cool. And just maybe one other question, if I really want to make that, sounds like the process is really straightforward. If you think of yourself as maybe living in Buffalo, Buffalo, Missouri is one of our communities here, and you're a person that's overwhelmed, and especially right now, just with the economic, if the sort of the issues haven't fully materialized, it's around the corner. Is it? I imagine some business leaders just need a little bit of psychotherapy, someone they can speak with, someone who can hold their hand and kind of give them that professional psychological support. Can you just talk about maybe an example or a journey that? My hope is that some of the listeners or folks that watch this, they get a real sense for how they can access and how mentally, psychologically, intellectually this process can be helpful for them. So, and again, sometimes the programs seem really intimidating to access. So can you just talk about why you would suggest that some of these folks that are feeling lost should be reaching out to EFactory or you?
Yes, definitely. And again, you know what you know, and things that you don't know, you don't know. And so I think we're all better together. We really look at it from a Southwest Missouri perspective. So I just tried to pull up, so this is what we're working with really in real time. So like I said, our business model just completely changed because we are here to support, startup companies and, a lot of our business models obviously come have an office at the EFactory. Well, right now is not really the time, or somebody wants to be in their office, right? So they're worried about what does tomorrow look like for my company. And so we just put this online. So again, like I said, through our Small Business Development Center, you can go on here, either their website or our website, and book a meeting. So I encourage you to share this, share this link with any of your members or businesses in your community, because we are talking them through, how to get a loan for your business, what type of loan you should get, putting them in touch with lenders. We're going to do a webinar on SBA disaster relief loans, probably looking at doing these, pretty frequently. Missouri Source Link, which if you're not a part of Missouri Source Link, right before this call, I was actually on their webinar, and they're going to start doing weekly webinars for resource organizations so that, statewide, we can just share tools about how we can help other startup companies. Our office hours that we've been doing, we instead of doing them in person, we're doing them virtually. And so any of your members or companies in your region can take advantage of this. Same with our trainings, webinars, any of that. And then I put up here some logos of other, statewide or industry associations that I look to. So a lot of these, like the International Business Innovation Association, SSTI, they have, channels. That was a tongue twister there, but ways that you can reach out and ask questions. And so we're, same with Missouri Department of Economic Development, Missouri Technology Corporation, US EDA. A lot of these have webinars and tools and resources. So this is where we're going to get our information and then using their resources to share with startup companies.
Very cool. Very cool. That's tremendously helpful. Jack, I think you're on still. I just want to call on you for a second, just given your experience and expertise in financial services and some of the patterns you're seeing in Aurora. Do you have any sense for what kind of challenges are floating to the top for you?
As far as our small businesses are concerned?
Yes, sir.
Well, of course, everything right now is absolutely focused on the pandemic and the response to that, it seems. As far as the services that I'm hearing that Rachel offers, I'm looking forward from right now. I'm having a difficult time seeing that there's going to be very much in the way of activity on new businesses, new developments, things like that in the near future. I think she did mention the SBA disaster recovery program, and we've already sit in on at least one call through the SBA about that. So that's probably going to be in the near term going to be the most valuable resource that many people are going to find or going to be needing. Beyond that, right now, I really don't know. It just, we're in such interesting times that it's hard to have much in the way of creative thinking.
Sure. That sounds good. Very good. Rachel, sorry, I asked a few more questions than I thought I had. Please continue.
No, you're good. And Jack, to just kind of echo, what you were saying, we also work with existing small businesses pretty frequently too. So maybe it's a company that, all of a sudden doesn't have as much of a retail, footprint anymore and has to really look at what e-commerce could be. Have them reach out to our consultants, same through that link, and we'll schedule that first 30-minute call. And then be able to help them really change their business plan, look into feasibility studies. We also have a huge library full of different databases, tools, research that we can help put together. And so it could be, here are, X companies within your target market that you should start with, and what that looks like. And then same with even like what Lance's topic is next month. Don't feel like you have to wait till next month if somebody needs some social marketing help, and what they can be doing, things on a low cost budget. We're going to continue to spin up some webinars. A lot of our services are free of charge to anybody because of some of the grants that we've been able to receive, and then funding, of course, through the SBA, through our Small Business Development Center. So anything like that, if you all don't already have, speaker series, lunch and learns, office hours, or a good referral source for questions that you might hear about and want to help somebody, definitely send them our way, and we'd love to work with you on any of those.
Thank you.
So kind of talk about these. Oh yeah.
Rachel, I do have one other quick question. Do you have occasion to work with SCORE, which is part of the SBA, or do you ever work with them, or are you offering somewhat similar services?
Yeah, so SCORE of Southwest Missouri actually offices out of our business suite in the EFactory, so their office is just right around the corner from me. And so we work with them too. I'd say also a little bit different. And so a lot of times, you might be matched with one mentor through SCORE that you kind of stay in touch with. Whereas like with our program, you can still meet with them to talk through business plan. Sometimes clients actually have a SCORE mentor and also are working with a small business development center consultant or taking advantage of some of our resources. So I would say we definitely work closely with them. And then obviously we are, a lot of times with sport requires a volunteer. And so as nice of it is for them to give up their, volunteer time, sometimes we can be, that person that you call when you need an answer, in 5 seconds versus maybe a day or something like that too. But yes, we work very closely with them.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Okay, and then I will go back to this and then just have kind of a few more slides. And of course, any questions that anyone has, I am here today or also have my contact information, so please use me as a resource. But we also, let's see if I can view, and I will do full screen mode for you here. So we also, this is one of those things that's kind of a double-edged sword, right? But we found that we got a lot of credibility from being fortunate enough to receive some awards and being picked up, in our local paper, our business journal. And so I encourage you, start doing that with different things that you're doing to help support businesses, current businesses, new businesses, innovation. We've really had a lot of attention put to how do we share our story and share our message, because we need more people to hear about us. And that's allowed for a lot of just different opportunities for people to come to us and be able to partner with them and offer additional resources. So encourage you to reach out to your local paper, business journal, even share each other's stories, I think is really helpful. And then there's a lot of statewide resources like your Missouri Source Link that is always looking to share any story throughout the state. So take advantage of those. And then, like we talked about earlier, we got a grant through an award through the U.S. Department of Commerce, EDA, to expand our facility. And so this is something, if you all are looking at revitalizing something in your community, whether it's a center or a project, I encourage you to take advantage of that, as well as opportunity zones. So the EFactory is located in an opportunity zone, which allowed us to do that. So just another kind of tool in our toolkit. So if you haven't looked into that, I encourage you to do so. Like I mentioned, able to expand to our 2nd and 3rd floor. This is really, not what it looks like currently today, but the vision for where we're going with our Aradia Commons expansion. And, this may seem, I'm just trying to start one program, but, we were too. And so I encourage you to dream big and think about different opportunities. It might not look like this. It might look, different, bigger, smaller. Joplin, I think, is another really good example of a community that's really revitalizing their whole innovation district, and then just what's happening by putting resources in the same place or in a similar area. So like their Chamber of Commerce, their innovation center, and then their workforce development training, and just working together. So whether you're physically located next to them or just working with those resources has been tremendously beneficial for us. And then just put up this slide because I know I talked about a lot of different things, and some of those, especially with the coronavirus situation we're in, probably aren't something that you want to start just tomorrow. But we really stay true to how can we help our businesses, what are their needs are. It's not about us, it's really about them and how do we share their story. And because of that, I think we've been able to find success in our business model and our programming. But honestly, we started with a lot of these things, right? So we started by providing coffee. So Coffee Ethic, which you see here, is a really great local business in Springfield. Come have a cup of coffee or have free coffee and meet. That's why a lot of coffee shops are looked at as where people have one-on-one meetings, or really where ideas or businesses are started. So work with your local coffee shop. Same if you have a brewery or, something like a Mother's Brewing Company. People like to be social, so maybe happy hours. We're actually doing virtual happy hours. I have my first one today at 5 p.m. with some different startup companies, just so that they can kind of talk through issues that they're facing. So, it doesn't have to be something that, really we're going to do that via Zoom and see how it goes. So I encourage you just to try something. If you hear something from 1 or 2 people, chances are other people really feel that way and need that support as well. Like I said, reach out to us. A lot of the training and support services we're doing through our Small Business Development Center, we're happy to bring to your community and do those in person, do them virtually, do anything like that. If you don't have a 1 million cups, and are thinking about one, that would be something to look into. I know Joplin just went through the process and is starting their 1 million cups. Ours is started, I think, about 6 years ago now. And that's really, a weekly program through the Kauffman Foundation, and just an opportunity for startup companies to share their stories. But then a lot of the resource providers or other, community members are in the audience. And so it's a really great way just to make connections. Mostly, I think it's about just connecting the right people. So the fact that you all are here today and work together really makes a big difference, because then you're able to use your resources and do more, instead of everybody having to try to do that one thing, and get students involved. So I've really seen a ton of amazing things happen because of our intentionality to have students. So elementary school students, high school students, we're actually home to the GoCap program. So high school juniors and seniors are coming to our facility every day for class. So working on business projects, hearing from guest speakers, but they have so many great ideas, and then they can work with local companies. So our startup companies will work with them on projects that they have. It's giving the students real experience, and then they're more likely to stay in our community for college, or even if they're not going to college, or to move back. And then work with your partners. So the fact that you all already have all these great connections, Jack can do a session on how to get an SBA loan, and that's something that you can put up, or just to refer people to somebody else when they need it, I think is really helpful. And then if all of this is really overwhelming too, or if there's an area you don't know, especially right now, I listen to so many different podcasts and read a lot of different books. Brian Fogel is really a good mentor to me, who reads a lot of books and does a really good job about passing on a book after he's read it to somebody else. So sometimes it's just those simple things when it all seems really intimidating, or to start a new program, or right now we don't know what tomorrow looks like. What can you do to be helpful for that startup company or small business in your community? So with that, that's really what I had prepared, but really happy to, be here today, answer any questions. But please, continue to reach out to me, use me as a resource. I'm happy to help however possible, because I think we're, truly all in this together, and want to help support each other.
Very cool. Well, Rachel, thank you so much. This is such a wealth of information. Anybody on the call have any questions for Rachel? Some of our chamber leaders, I'm curious, maybe Tanya, if I may ask you a question. As you hear today's conversation, do you think your members in Buffalo could benefit from some of this content? I'm not sure how many of them may already be aware of what eFactory is doing. Any thoughts on how your members could engage with eFactory?
I'm sure we have several that would be interested in this. I think right now the biggest thing is going to be trying to figure out how to move forward with what's going on and some of the resources that are going to be available to them. So I think that's going to be one of the big questions that people are going to have.
Got it. And sounds like based on what Rachel was sharing, I think they have a website where it specifies the specific opportunities that are out there, whether it's the SBA support mechanisms, or even some local conversations. Perhaps one. Go ahead, Rachel.
I was going to just show you all the two websites, and please feel free to push them out to your members. And you can get to this just from, sbdc.missouri-state.edu or EFactory website. So we have two different types of landing pages, and we're going to keep updating these in real time. So again, if they want to book a meeting right away with a consultant to just, figure out where to start, what to do next, anyone can do that. And then also, like I said, we're going to host a webinar really soon. Especially as they become available to Missouri business owners about what to do, how to do it, and then put them in touch with people like Jack to help get those loans. And then also just kind of aggregating different plans, helpful documents, things to think about, and then again to act as that resource. So whether it's specific to this, or maybe they've never done e-commerce and all of a sudden have to start selling on their website tomorrow, point them our way, and we're happy to be a resource there for you.
Casey in Marshfield, for you and your members, chamber members in Marshfield, any thoughts on what you're finding helpful here, or how you may be able to engage with you and your members in regards to eFactory, and any thoughts, reactions? Okay, she may have stepped away. I do have one question for you, Rachel. The two items you highlighted, obviously in our communities, we're looking to find ways in which we can create more business opportunities, new businesses, support existing businesses' growth, or even the very established anchor businesses, so sort of those three categories. First question is, we attempted this program last year called Create Here, which was basically each town focusing on consumer businesses, identifying a retail spot where we could promote it, talk about what businesses we would like to see attracted to this retail vacant spot in our town square, identify what businesses we're most interested in, and while our communities don't have a whole lot of resources or incentives, just whatever we can come up with. And I'm curious, for a program like that, as the towns are thinking about new businesses and growth, and you're deeply immersed in businesses that are starting up, as you may have some businesses that are now ready to go into sort of a production or execution or growth mode, is there an opportunity for us to connect, every 5-6 months and just sort of talk about, here's the 3 or 4 businesses, if a town can offer X, Y, Z, maybe this business could look to not have a full-blown operation, but maybe a portion of their operation can be supported. Can you just talk about what some of those opportunities could look like?
Yeah, definitely. And, this is something that I think is hard no matter what size community you are to, right? So I just met with the head of our Downtown Springfield Association because, our downtown doesn't have as many retail options as really we should have and need to have. So how do you attract the type of, company or the type of business that you want, whether it's to fill a space that you already have, or maybe they don't, need a physical space, and what does that look like? And really, I think when it comes down to it, and we're trying to figure this out ourselves for, what's our value proposition? How can we attract somebody to come to, Southwest Missouri and start their business here? Because I think because of tools like technology, right, you do have the opportunity of choice. And so a lot of our communities are a really great place to live and beautiful, and that's about the people. And so I think it goes back to that. So I think it's, what opportunity can you provide? Where are you uniquely positioned or uniquely qualified to help that type of company? So maybe for some of you, it's a certain type of manufacturing company. So what would it look like if you help pilot, what that small business or startup is? So really, I think more than anything, it is, what does that opportunity look like? How can you make the barriers easier for that, small business, medium-sized business, or even if it's a large company? So like a Cox Health, how can you help solve the problems that they have, and do so in a better way that makes, better business sense? And then in turn, all of our communities prosper from it. So, we're working through all these exercises as we go, and would love to partner with everybody on this call or anyone else in your community to help figure all of that out too.
Very cool, very cool. And I'm going to ask you second part of the question just in 1 minute. I'm going to share my screen really quick for those that are on the call. If you wouldn't mind, just take a moment to start filling out your, hold on a second. If you could share, if you could fill out this survey. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Yep, okay, perfect. For those on the call, if you can just, it won't take more than 2 minutes to fill the survey out, but if you wouldn't mind either typing in that web link, or you can, like I said, you can use your phone camera to scan that little code on the right. And also just want to highlight that this is our first event of the year. Next month, we have Rachel's colleague, Lance, who'll be joining us as well, talking about social media marketing. So please join us for that conversation. And the recording for today's session will be available on our Business 911 site as well. So as as the attendees just sort of brew on those pieces, the second part of the question I had, Rachel, was on the student side, do you have any guidance on, each of our communities have really robust school systems, school districts. They have incredible programming locally. Any one or two tips on thoughts on how we could engage some of the students in entrepreneurship discussions, and maybe something easy and something more complicated or more strategic that the towns could be thinking about?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different options, which is something that's really cool. So we've done where we've partnered with teachers for maybe it's a semester or a year and all different ages. So we've done this with third graders where they actually work on a business plan, and then we help serve as coaches or judges and either go to them or they come to us. And that's been really cool. So anything from how they're going to sell candy to their, other students during their, 15-minute session at school and what that looks like, to then like our GoCaps program, which was started. And I know some of the communities, here on this call are part of GoCaps. And so that might be something to look at too, where those students actually participate in a class geared towards, innovation, entrepreneurship, technology. Maybe it's just, especially the chambers, you have resources to all the great business leaders in your community. So having them serve as job shadows or mentors. And so I think you can kind of start wherever you are. So maybe you have a superintendent or a teacher that's really willing to work with you. Even just compiling who would be willing to do a job shadow and providing that information to the school district is immensely helpful.
Very cool. All right. Well, Rachel, you came highly recommended by many folks in the region that we need to have you as a speaker. So we're so glad you've gotten us kicked off this year. Your insights are tremendously helpful. I want to open it up one last time and see if anyone has any other questions. Please just unmute your lines and you can ask your questions now. I've heard typically you have to give folks 13 seconds before the question formulates. So we'll give people 14 seconds just to be safe. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, very cool. Well, thank you again. Thanks everyone for participating. Hope you can all join us next month, Thursday, April 16th from noon to 1. Lance Kaufman from SBDC will be joining us to talk about social media marketing and how to make it work for your business. Rachel, thank you for your insights. They've been tremendously helpful. Everyone be safe.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Yes, perfect. Thanks everybody. Have a great afternoon.